Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Rowell and François.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is François, your host. I'm here this morning with Rowell. Hey Rowell, how are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Very good. So we're here today to talk about business-related topic. We're going to talk about, what it takes to start up a business and more specifically a consultancy business, because that's what we run. Wanted to, share our experience with you guys, giving you a heads up of, what you have to think about when you start your own business and how to get ready for it. And then we also came up with a checklist that you can go and get from our show notes at cleartosend.net/199. And it's a checklist that will help you to, get everything in order to start your business. And we've broken down in different sections, things you need to do before starting, things you need to do to register the actual business, some of the admin tasks you need to take on once your, business is registered. And then, a section related to the branding and another one related to the networking you have to do at the beginning. So if you guys are interested, you can go and get your own copy of that checklist.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great topic since we both have our own businesses. You're a lot farther than I am. And plus I do mine as a side hustle or part-time. But I think it's a really good topic because you and I talk about this quite often when we're not recording. We're always talking about how we can do things a little bit better. So you and I share a lot of different tips and insights on how you do things and how I do things. And then we try to incorporate that and see what the results are. And we found that there's also a lot of other people like you, if you're listening to this episode, that want to hear about the same thing, or maybe you're trying to do the same thing as well. So we thought we'd share our experience in starting it up because it's still kind of fresh in my mind. I think I'm going to be in my third year come May. So it's been quite the process and quite the journey, especially having it as a part-time business. But I'd like to share what I've learned.
Yeah, and it's definitely doable. It sounds like something that sometimes it sounds like something you want to do, but you're not too sure. Is it too risky? And you question yourself a lot, but it's actually doable. If you take the time and do it properly, it's actually doable. So so hopefully we can inspire some of you guys to start your own thing and give you some actual concrete information on how to get started.
I will say in the very beginning that when you make this move, you're going to put yourself into a different mindset, right? A lot of us work in a strictly technical field where all we do is talk, breathe, do technical work. But when you start your own business, now you're going to start doing business related tasks, right? You're going to step out of that technical comfort zone and do business related items like starting up your business and doing things like your financial books and trying to get clients. So you're going to have to balance some of that time out, and you have to think differently. And also what changes the most is how your communication is done with people who are not technical. So I just want to start off that way because you really do have to change your mindset and become a business person who has a strong technical background. So you do have this area of expertise that you'll have to pick up along the way.
That's very true. And when I started my business, I was part of this group where I live in London, Ontario, in Canada, where, it's like a organization that helps startups in the IT space. And then I met a lady, and she also started her business, and her background was like manufacturing, engineering, something like that. And she told me, you have a business, you're now in the sales, a salesperson.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm an engineer. She's like, no, believe me, you're a salesperson now. So that's kind of like, go back and,
That's a very good point, because a lot of us don't like to sell, but in reality we do sell, and we're always selling because we're trying to sell a product, right? We sell the technical solutions. And you might not think of it as selling, but when we start to talk about it and you have that passion behind that technical solution or that product, you're technically selling. You're trying to sell me on a specific thing, like whether that's Cisco or Aruba or Mist. Like you're really trying to sell that because you understand it. If you understand it very well, you're going to sell it very well. But you do have to think differently. And I think, when that was a good point that lady told you, because that's what I meant by changing the mindset, because it really changed the way you thought about things, right, Francois?
Yeah, exactly. And then sales is not necessarily a negative thing, right? You can find your own style, and then you can bring your own personality to it.
Yeah.
And you can still I still consider myself an engineer and very technical person, and I want to stay that way because that's what I enjoy doing. And if you have a business, you'll start to see that if you want to be successful, you need to stick to what you like to do, because you're gonna put everything in, and you're gonna do it correctly. So yeah, I think that's a very important piece as well.
It really made me think that we should maybe have an episode on sales, but I don't know. I wouldn't be an expert on talking about sales. We'd have to bring somebody.
me either.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning then. So what do you need to actually get started in having a business? You want to go out there and market yourself to companies about your wireless services. What do you need to do to get started?
I think you don't need a lot, right? So what you would need is, obviously a name for your business. When you choose, choosing a name for a business sounds like an easy task, but for me, it wasn't. It took me a while to find a name I liked. And when you're searching for a name, it's very important to make sure that the domain name, you have a relevant, available domain name for that specific name. Right, you don't want your website to be a super complex, super complex website that no one's remember. Same for the name. You want something that's catchy and people, like to remember, but also something that's relevant to your business, right?
Yeah, the name in itself is more of closer towards branding, because technically it could work under your name, your own name. But if you want to have, say, like an entity that people can see, then you should have a business name that is easy to spell out if you're going to just tell people by word what your name is. And you want to check the domain name, see if that's available, and look at other social networks as well to see if that name is taken. And also just do a simple Google search on the name to make sure it doesn't reference something that might be bad. For example, I know there's been times on social media where a company will take a hashtag, for example, and kind of brand around that hashtag, but only to find out that the internet itself has branded that hashtag with a negative connotation. And that's something to consider. But to get started, you could use your own name. I can call myself Rowell's Wireless, or just Rowell, and then go out there and market yourself that way. That's one way to start.
And then once you have your name, you need to have an idea of what you're going to do, and an idea of how you're going to make money. And that's what we call a business plan, right? In our technical terms. But the business plan is it's pretty much laying down on a piece of paper how you think you're going to make money, right? And at the beginning, you don't need to make it crazy complex. You don't need to read a 500 pages book on how to make a business plan. I like to say it because people, when they see business plan, they're like, oh my God, it's going to take me a year to write down.
Right.
But you just need to have an idea of how you're going to make money. And that's all you need that's all you need to start. After that, your business plan will evolve and will get stronger. I know that's what happened for myself. Like my business plan just evolves all the time, and I just make it fit whatever I want to do and whatever however I can make money. But at the beginning, you don't need a crazy business plan. So you just need to know and understand how you can make money. You can also do a market study. So you can order or market study online. I know for myself, I contacted one government agency that just provides that information for free. So you just tell You tell them where you live, you tell them what you want to do, what type of business you want to do, and they come back to you later with like pretty much a PDF document that tells you, this is the market, this is the demographic, this is the companies that do the same thing in your area, and this is how much money they make, how many people they have, and so you can study the competition, you can study your market, and this will help you to target your customers a little bit better, refine your business plan, and know if you're in a good place or not.
Yeah, you want to understand who your competitors are, but and that's something you could put in a business plan as well, as looking at your competitor landscape. Now, the business plan can just be one page, because as you're starting out, you probably don't have much to add to it anyways, right? You're going to add what your services are, who you are, what makes you different, what your strategy is going to be to make money. And that could really just be one page. I think initially when I created one, it was one page, and then I just kind of tucked it away on a drive somewhere. But you always bring it out every once in a while just to see where you're at, and then you adjust it as needed. And the business plan in itself is really to help you understand where you're going to go with this business, right? So when you're looking at your services, you want to niche it down at first and really pick one area of focus, say wireless is a good example, and just focus on wireless and be strong at wireless. And then as you expand and grow, you could add more services to that. And so the business plan will direct you on where you want to go with your business. It also sometimes is required for when you go to a bank to take out money, for example. I haven't done that. I haven't taken out any loans or anything, but I do know there's some business services that want to see what your business plan looks like.
Yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of starting a consultancy business for us, is you don't really need to put down any heavy money at the beginning, right?
No,
the investment is fairly low compared to like opening a restaurant, let's say. So you don't necessarily go to see your banker and say, here, I need 100,000 loan to start my business. So you can actually start it, even as a side. As a side business, and start making money that way. And so you can pretty much start it without having to do any heavy, lifting financially.
Yeah, I would say try not to borrow money in the beginning. Try to use what you have. I think the only thing you really need to invest in is a laptop and some of the wireless tools that you'll need to do your work. And I wanted to touch on the competitors, right? François, you mentioned a study that you can get. I know in my area, those studies can cost quite a bit of money. So the most inexpensive way to do your own competitor research or your market research is to call other companies that would be your competitors. I've done that myself. I've called a local competitor and I ask what their prices are, what services they offer, and kind of listen to what they say. And then you can compare different pricings in your area for those services, so you can gauge what you should be charging for your services as well. You don't want to be incredibly low below the market, and you don't want to be incredibly high above what the market's demanding, right? Because you won't have clients that won't want to pay that much sometimes. So it really depends on the value you bring, but it allows you to see, okay, where is everyone at right now in my area? And let me start from there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. So once you have all of this, you can actually, register your business. So register the business is really when the business is born from the admin standpoint.
Or from the government standpoint.
From the government standpoint, exactly. So what you have to do is you have to register the business to the government, right? And that can sound like a hard task, but it's actually easier than what you think. I thought it would take years, whatever you see it in movies, but it was actually a pretty straightforward process for me. So this process will change depending on your country, though. So some country will have some heavier admin process. For me, in Canada, you can choose to register your business to the province, or you can use to register your business to the country, depending on what you do. So in my case, I chose to register it to my province, Ontario, and then I went through the process, and I actually went online and I went through third-party companies that take doing all the admin, paperwork for you, all the forms. It took me like, maybe 1 hour to give my information. And you also have, like in Canada, what you have to do is you have to validate the name. So you have to tell them which name you want for your business, and then they tell you if it's available in the country.
Yeah,
right?
You can't take someone, like I can't register Apple.com or Apple as exactly. the company and then operate as them, and because they'll come after me.
Exactly, that's the idea. But once you have that confirmation, you can start the process. And then I think I paid like $400 in Canadian dollars to get it set up, and then I received my certificate, my business certificate with my business number, and that's the official document that you will need to do some of the other admin tasks we'll talk about. So that's pretty much it, right? So you get that done, and then your business is registered, legally. You have, you're known by the government, and you have your business number.
That sounds very simple compared to what I had to go through, François.
Yeah,
California is
going to depend.
California is a different beast. I don't want to get into the politics of California, but California, you could operate as what's called a sole proprietor, and that is the easiest way to get started. And all you need to do is register a DBA, which is called a doing business as, right? So I am doing business as. Then you have this fictitious business name that you would have to register. That could be your name. That could be some other name you just create, but you could register as a sole proprietor just to get started, and you tell the state and the county, this is the name I'm going to operate as. And that is very simple and very inexpensive. I think that would be under $100 just to get started. Now, that leaves you pretty vulnerable in terms of like assets, and on the business side, people can't, like, if for whatever reason, because the United States loves to sue everybody, if you do get sued and you go into court, they can go after your assets and all that stuff. So that's why there's a lot of people that also go into an LLC, a limited liability company, and they register that way because the LLC would be its own entity as a business. And then there are other benefits and disadvantages as well. I won't go into those details, but the registration will vary per state. You would have to do research into, I think it would be the Secretary of the state. They have a page about registering the business, but an LLC in California costs about $800 a year to keep that and maintain it with the city or the state of California. Then there's a filing fee that you need to do, fill out forms for the LLC. I think that's $20. And then there's additional permits that you'd have to get, right? You have to get a business certificate, sales tax, those kinds of things. There's a lot of that. But my state has different webinars and courses and in-person events to help learn about this. It varies per state. And the one thing I will say is, if you're trying to register an LLC and you go, I'm going to go register in Delaware, for example, because it's cheap there. I would say keep it simple and register in your own state, because wherever you operate, that's where you're going to have to pay taxes anyways. So either way, the states will get, or your local region will get taxes from you. So you might as well make it easy instead of having to pay taxes in a different state and then in your own state twice. So that's my tip for registering. But to start off easy, because since you won't have as many clients to begin with, just register as a sole proprietor, because that's what I did. I registered my business as a fictitious business name and just started that way. And then as I got more clients, I changed into an LLC.
That's very, very interesting and a good tip for people that want to start on the side. For myself, because I just went all in. At first, I registered my business as a corporation in Canada. So different. You made a good point about different business status. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to study a little bit, which business type are available in your country. Is it a sole proprietary? Is it, corporation, LLC, whatever? Different have legal status, different, different, tax status. So you're going to have to choose whichever is the best for you. And you can consult people locally. You can consult the governments. Usually you have also organization that helps you start a business in your town, and they'll be able to help you out. For me, like a corporation made the most sense, for what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of related to what you did with the LLC. It's its own entity, legally speaking, right? So you protect yourself a little bit that way. So if someone is going after the business, they're going after the business. They're not going after you. Yeah. Personally, even if you're the owner of the company, right? It's from the legal standpoint, it's different. Yeah. And also, what I wanted to mention is when you start those companies, if you start it alone, you will be like the full owner. Yeah. Right. So you'll own 100% of the shares.
Yeah. And so even though you have an LLC in front of you, an entity, there's still ways that if, let's say you were just completely reckless with your business, there's going to be ways where people can still go after you personally for the damages. So the LLC doesn't strictly protect you 100%. It doesn't protect you from doing something dumb and stupid. Yeah. But
that's not what I meant to say.
Yeah, right. I just want to make that clear for because we're not lawyers and CPAs. So you would have to consult with a CPA and a lawyer and all that to get the right entity down, the business entity down. What makes sense for you? Because I will say if you go above sole proprietor, it adds more administrative overhead, meaning you're going to have to do more work to maintain that business. There's a lot more paperwork. There's a lot more filing paperwork you have to file with the state and with the government. So there's just a lot to consider there, which we won't go into full detail. There's a lot of stuff.
All right. Now the question is, what do you do with this piece of paper, that business certificate you just got, or the business paper with your business number? So the first thing you need to do is, get all of the admin stuff covered. So first will be for me, the first was to open a bank account for the business. Depending on what you do, you might need more than one. When I started my business, I think I just started with like a checking and a saving account. And then later on, I applied for a business credit card, and then I opened another checking account, but in US dollars. So depending on what you do, you might need different bank accounts. Yeah. When you open a bank account for a new business, or if you apply for a credit card for your new business, the bank is going to look into your own finance, right? So they're going to look into your own credit score to make sure that you qualify for that credit card or whatever. So they're not really going to see you as a business. They're going to see you as, you at first. Yeah. That's just how they're going to treat you.
Yeah. They'll see that you own 100% of the business, which means you're 100% liable for that's pretty much whatever happens. Right. So yeah. And I would say you want to open a bank account because you want to keep it separate from your personal finances. That is the most important, critical thing. You don't want to mix your personal home finances with your business because that'll just lead to a lot of trouble. And that is, I think,
taxes.
Yeah, you'll pay taxes on that. And I think as a sole proprietor, though, it's all as one in California. Whatever your personal income is, and then whatever your business income is, it goes into as you. But you can have just have an account for your business is making sure all that is good. And plus with United States and California, you want to keep track of those finances because you have something called the IRS.
Yeah, every country has one, I think. Yeah.
So you want to be in good standing with those guys.
Yeah, you need to make sure you keep track of your, expenses, your spending, keep track of your income. And then at the end of the year, you do your finances and you make sure you pay the taxes that you do. So related to that subject, what you can do when you start as well is go and get an accountant, or try to find a good accountant in your in your town. Try to talk to your friends to see if anyone knows someone that's good. For me, it took me a while to find.
Yeah, you're gonna cycle through some people because they're just like Wi-Fi professionals. There's good ones and then there's bad ones, right? So you're gonna go through a couple of people, and don't be afraid about finding the right person. So tell them exactly what you're looking for. Tell them exactly how you want to do your accounting, and have them educate you. I think that's the most important thing for me, is making sure this accountant can also tell me what I don't know, right? So when I ask them questions, I would hope they could answer them. If they can't, then that's when I start finding somebody different.
Yeah, and the accountant will help you in making sure that you pay your taxes on time. Sometimes they help you to optimize how you pay yourself. They help you to optimize your expenses and all of that. So it's a really good resources to have. And then they might cost you a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, they might also help you to save some money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's usually a good deal.
Yeah. So that's one of the first people you should work with when you start your businesses, even if it's not an accountant, but maybe a bookkeeper to help you maintain your books, your financial books, because there's different kinds of accountants, right? You have your bookkeeper, you have a CPA. I think there's some other ones too, but I've worked with a bookkeeper and a CPA, and now I just work with the CPA, which is a certified public accountant. And they have a certification in this, and they understand taxes better than I do, especially in my state and federally across United States. And then they give me some tips on where I can maximize my money. Basically, how do I keep most of that income for me, and what should I do with some of these expenses? So there's a lot of discussion that has to go on there. They look at your finances, so they're going to see everything. So you have to be comfortable with that too, but they're there to help you.
Yeah. And for me, like the way I did it is the first year, I didn't really know anyone. So I went with like a big corporation, ended up having a poor experience. So then I went to a friend of mine that was a CPA, and he helped me out for a little bit. And recently, I think last year, I transitioned to another accountant because he was like really busy on his own. So I took on another company, and it's going really well. They helped me a lot. And so they are taking care of all the accounting. And then I also have a bookkeeper now. And the bookkeeper takes care of making sure the books are good, registering the expenses, making sure, that it matches the income and all of this. And so it reduces the amount of admin work I have to do on my end. I used to do the bookkeeping myself, keeping track of my expenses. You can use software for that. I use one called QuickBooks to keep track of all your spending. But now I just offload that to them.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue. That's a good segue into finance software, because you use QuickBooks. I also use QuickBooks. And I think the reason why I use QuickBooks is there's a lot of accountants that use it. So I felt that I will use something that when I go to an accountant, they would also understand how to use it. So the reason why you would use QuickBooks, you can track your invoices, your expenses, the money coming in, money going out, the taxes that you need to pay. You can invoice clients directly through QuickBooks if you want to. And as an alternative to QuickBooks, there's other applications. There's also FreshBooks, which I think is the more modern way of doing QuickBooks. There's Excel sheets. I think to start, you can use Excel sheets, but it gets out of control once you start having a lot of transactions, and you don't want to lose that file. But I would definitely say stick with a well-known and well-used financial piece of software, but take a look at each one, compare them, and see which one of those works best with what you do.
And the main goal of doing this is for taxes purposes. You have to keep track of how many taxes you're charging your customers, how many taxes you're charging your customer, how many taxes you're paying when you're doing an expense. And at the end of the year, you have to either pay back what you owe the government, or you have to, the government will give you back whatever they owe you if you if you purchase more tax, that's what you charge, if it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a big piece of it: the finance, the banking, and the bookkeeper, the accountant, and the finance software. You can start very simple. You don't have to go all out at first. Just an accountant, and then the software, finance software. What do you call it? The finance software can be good to start with. Then you need insurances. Mm-hmm. So same thing, insurance at the beginning, you don't need to go all out. But as a consultant, you will need something called liability insurance.
Yeah.
So that will protect yourself when you go out and do some job if something happens. What you can also do is insure your equipment, right? So if you want to insure your laptop or whatever you use, you can protect that as well. So if something happens, you can recoup that money. And as you'll go, as you make more investment in the business, you have more expensive equipment, so that will become very useful as you grow the company.
There's also something called errors and omissions, which you can also get on top of your liability insurance. And all of this depends on who you go with to get your insurance. So you can go and ask for quotes. They give you quotes pretty easily. I think I pay roughly $60 a month for this. I'm not even sure. But a lot of companies, when you work with them, they will ask you if you have insurance, and it's almost a requirement to work with them that you have insurance and that you're insured by when you step onto their property. You are responsible for your own actions, and they don't want to be held liable for something that you did.
Yeah. And then something optional you can do is health insurance. Right. So that's something I took on early when I started my business, is something to protect yourself. So if in case something goes wrong with your health and you're not able to get revenue in business and pay yourself, so you can get some health insurance that you pay every month. And then if you get sick, they take care of your salary while you're sick for an extended amount of time.
Yeah, the health insurance can be more.
I mean, the U.S.
U.S. is very different. It's a lot more expensive. Yeah. But if your spouse is working and your spouse's employer has insurance, I would leverage that insurance as much as you can, because it'll be much more affordable than going on in the market as yourself and getting insurance for yourself. Because when your spouse works for a bigger company, they kind of pull all that together and get it at a better rate for insurance. So I would definitely go that route if you can. If not, then there's different websites where you can get insurance out in the market, and it gets quite a bit expensive. So just take that into consideration.
Yeah, and that's something you don't have to do at first too. You can wait a little bit for your business to settle. For me, it's just a safety net. If I get sick, I know I have X amount of dollars every month, and I can keep the house running and everything. So it's just a peace of mind as you grow older.
Yeah, exactly. And so one other person that you should also be familiar with and get to know is a lawyer, right? So we talk about all these things you need to get started, because one thing we didn't talk about when you're starting a business is you're going to have to create some sort of agreement between you and your clients, right? So how do you create that agreement between them? And you've seen these agreements before. If you've been in the workplace, it's all these terms and conditions and all that fancy lawyer mumbo jumbo, right? And there's templates online, which I used to get started. But as you do more work, maybe you need something that's more tailored towards your business itself. And maybe there's something that the template is missing, right? So you want to leverage a lawyer for that, pay for their services. They talk to you about what you do in your business and what you want to protect yourself from when you're working with other companies. And so they'll create like these legal documents for you. They'll also incorporate your business. There's a lot of things a lawyer can do to get you started and also to protect your company as well. They have a lot of different types of lawyer services. But to start, when you're registering your business, you don't have to use a lawyer. You can. I used a company called InkFile to do my online filing. there are lawyers that will do this for you as well for a fee, and usually it's a higher fee. But they are a lot more detailed than that, and they also take care of it for you. So that way you're not going to miss any documents that you have to submit when you're filing with the government.
Yeah, and I also use the service, a legal service company. Mine is called Legal Shield, and I pay a monthly fee, but it's not crazy. It's like $25 or $30. And then I have access to a lawyer company, a local lawyer company, whenever I need to, and I don't have to pay any more charges. So whenever I have a contract to validate, I send it to them, and then they come back to me. We get on a phone call, and then they help me out. Whenever I need to create a legal document, I can actually create it from a template myself, send it to them, and then we adjust it, so it fits my need. And all of that is included in the charges. And what's awesome too is that I can also use that service for personal use. Right. So if I have something, in my personal life and I need a lawyer or I need to ask a question, I can call them, and then I can use the same subscription to have them help me out.
Yeah.
So this is great. And if I need to go to court one day or anything like this, obviously I'm going to have to, put more money up front. But I mean, so far I haven't had any need to pay more money to get all my legal stuff sorted. So it's also a great way to get started for, minimal cost.
Yeah. And so you want to know a lawyer and an accountant. And if you do have other questions there in the US, there's these organizations that will help you out so you can take advantage of with questions that you have. There's the SBA, the Small Business Administration, where they offer free business consulting, and they also have other free resources. And then there's SCORE, which offers small business mentors and provides education for you as a business. So these are people who have business experience, whether they're currently doing it or they've done it in the past, and they're offering their expertise to people where you can ask them questions. So I would take advantage of that, as well as trying to find a lawyer and an accountant. Those are kind of the what you need to get started. And then from there, what's the next step, Francois?
We'll talk about branding.
Okay.
Right. So branding. So how can you, work on all your business branding and then just, create that face that everyone knows of your business? First thing I put there, it's, define your business values. So that's something that I didn't necessarily do at first, but I read a book one day, and the book is called The Advantage, and we put it in the show notes. And then this book talks about businesses, and it had a section on values, and there's different type of values, but there's one type called the core values of your business, and it's pretty much the values you want to carry on. You want your business to carry on, and it's also your personal values, obviously, if you're just creating the business, and that's some values you would want to stick to in everything you do for the business, right? Mm-hmm. So try to find your 3 core values that you want to stick to, that represents yourself, represents the service you want to provide, and then define them and put them on your website. That will help you and try to read them once in a while so you don't forget about them, right? But if you made them about you should not forget. They should be part of you, right? And part of what you do.
This is going to help be your differentiator amongst the other competitors.
And it gives some personality to your business, right? As well, I think. So that's something you want to do. The branding is very important for a consultancy business, because that's, you're selling a service, right? So you don't have any product to offer. So the branding will be the face of your company, right?
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning when you don't have any customer base, you didn't do any service for anyone. So you want to have, good branding so people can be, somewhat attracted to your business and interested in knowing more about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So part of the branding,
it's the face of it's the initial impressions that someone sees. It's how your company acts out there in public. So, as you're going to go into, Francois, like, part of the branding is the first thing that everyone's going to look at, which is your website, right?
Yeah, the website. And at first, your website doesn't have to go crazy. You can just go with, homepage explaining what you do, explaining who you are, and how to contact you, right? But you want to make sure that homepage looks nice. You want to work on a logo. So you can either do it yourself or you can hire someone to do it, a designer. You have services online like Fiverr.com. You can get a logo for like $5. So leverage those services as much as you can. Define your graphical color charts. So the colors you want to use for your company, so the colors you want to use for your logo, the colors you want to use for your website, and try to stick to them because they'll become the part of the identity of your business.
Yeah, and there's a lot of meaning into colors as well. So you could do some research online as to what colors mean and what kind of emotions that the color puts to people or what they associate with. So I would do some research online and make sure you don't pick colors that clash. Meaning on websites, I don't like using any bright yellow colors because it's hard to see. You could experiment with this as you're building your website. Try using different colors before you settle on one, just to see what it appears on other people's screens. Right, you want to make sure it kind of stands out, but also is readable and doesn't hurt your eyes when you look at it. So there's a lot of testing you can do prior to, like, quote unquote going live, right? Because you haven't maybe advertised your website yet, but I would definitely test it and see what it looks like, get other people's feedback as an example.
Yeah, and once you have all of that sorted, you can start to also create your templates, your document templates. So like your Word template, your PPT template for all the documents you're going to produce under your company for your customers. And you can reuse the logos, the color chart and everything. It's going to be way easier if you have that sorted out. Then you have the social media. So you want to create pages for your business on social medias, right? So different than your pages, but just representing the business. That's going to be part of the branding, and you can do it on whichever platform is relevant to you. So for me, I did it on LinkedIn and Twitter because I thought it was relevant to what I do as a business. But if you want to do it on other platforms like Instagram, Facebook, whatever you think is relevant for you, you can do that.
Yeah, and try to test it out too. You don't have to settle on one. Go to a social media network that, like what François says, is relevant and makes sense. Like, go where your potential customers are and post there.
Yeah, and then try to post on those platforms regularly, so people see that you're active. That it's not a dead business. I know that can be a little time consuming, but you can leverage tools to automate that. I know we use a Rowell and I use a tool called Buffer that you can use to automate your posts on social medias. And it's going to help you out a little bit to automate that. And if you don't like doing it, you can do it on Sunday evening and plan the entire week of posts on social media.
But don't forget to engage with people. Don't just keep posting stuff, but also respond to other people's posts and be engaging.
That's really important too. So maybe you can automate some of it and then do some engagement as well. On social media, you will have time at the beginning anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
You'll have a side gig. You might have a lot of time. Yeah.
Oh man. And then you can also do some personal branding. If you were, the face of the business at first, people are going to see you also. So you can make sure that you brand yourself as well, right? And make sure that you do things to be relevant in what you do. Right. So when your customer calls you, they know that, they can trust you for the work that you're going to deliver. You're not saying you're an astronaut when you have, a network engineering degree. So, so you can, make sure you can train yourself on whatever you're selling, get some certification. Maybe you can create a blog and start to share ideas.
I would definitely focus on the blog to start, because that's going to help bring some relevance through Google searches, for example. As people are trying to search for different things, you could cover those topics of what customers or clients are trying to look for, and put that in your blog, and basically providing them value by informing them about your expertise, like your Wi-Fi service, for example. So you want to be able to talk to them about that and be able to answer some of their questions, give them some quick wins and some values. And that way they'll maybe want to do work with you, right? It's all about trying to get in front of them and inform them by providing valuable content. And so I would say focus on a blog and write consistently, and you may see results.
Yeah, and try to write about things that your customer wants to hear about. Right, so try to put yourself in their shoes, and then try to understand what they want to know, and then write blog around that so you can share them. Once you have written them, that's always a good idea. And then you can also use your personal social media to advertise your business. You might have more followers on your personal social media at first than on your business, social media. So you can actually cross the two, links the two, share, and then use that to also advertise your business at the beginning. And then once you have all of that sorted, or once you have your business registered, once you have all the admin work done, the insurance and all of that, once you have your branding set up, then you're pretty much ready. You're ready to sell your services. On the checklist, we put a couple of other things you could do, in a second, as a second step to improve all of that. But you could pretty much start selling your services and make money.
Yep. So there's a lot of other topics we didn't discuss. We didn't talk about pricing because that's an art all in itself. We kind of touched upon pricing by seeing what your competitors do. But if you head over to the show notes, we also link out to some books that we've read that we found valuable and that have helped us in our business and got us thinking in very specific ways. So if you head over to cleartosend.net/199, we have a link out there to the books. We have the notes that we just talked about here in this episode. François also did a presentation at WPC about being an independent consultant. So we'll link out to that video. And then also you could download the checklist there if you're thinking about starting your own business. Anything else you want to add, François?
No, that was really good. We actually had a little bit more planned, but we'll keep it for another episode. We might do other business related episodes. Just let us know if you like this type of content as well. I know it's different, a little bit different than what we do on a regular basis. But we're happy to share our experience if you guys are interested, and do a little bit of business related art episode as well if you guys are interested. So let us know in the comment. Share the episode if you liked it on social media. It's @ClearToSend on Twitter, and we'll see you guys for the next episode. Have a nice week.
Bye guys.
Bye.